y'all, welcome to the 2015 Christmas card series here at Rice and Crafts. Today is card 7 of the series, and this is the card we're going to make today. I already did a bunch of pre-setup stuff here because this required a lot of process, and if I were to do it all, it would just take forever to do this card. So, I'm going to set this aside. And I'm going to pull in what I've got so far. Okay, I've got my card base, and I've got my inside pieces, and then this is going to be the front of our card. And I already embossed it because it would take forever. This piece here is 7 1/4 by 4 3/4. It's the size of the front of our card base. It's going to cover the whole card base. And I embossed it using the Cuttlebug Snowflake die, or embossing folder. And all I did was I sent it through twice. The first time I sent it through this way, just like that. And the second time I just moved it over so it met the line here and sent it through again. And you can't hardly even tell where that line joins. So this is where I'm gonna start. So, and I'm gonna have to turn my card base a little bit because it is a tiny bit bigger after you get done embossing. So I'm just gonna use some art glitter glue. Okay. And I'm just gonna go ahead and just like that. And then I'm gonna grab a big pair of scissors right here. And I'm just going to cut the card base to match. You're not losing a whole lot. I mean, maybe a 1/16 of an inch, if that. So it's not going to make a huge difference as far as your other layers and measures go. So I just cut it off. Then I don't have to worry about it. And it's not a problem. So that's our card base. I'm going to set this aside for a minute. And I'm going to go ahead and stamp the inside of our card here. And I've just got a white piece of 4 1/4 by 6 1/2 inch paper. And I'm using this Christmas stamp, and I've used it before. I bought it on eBay a couple years ago. And I love the sentiment, but I don't know who it's made by, where it came from, anything like that. Literally, it came just the rubber. It wasn't even mounted on anything. But it's a great sentiment, and I love it. So I'm going to use it. And I'm just going to kind of eyeball that in the middle towards the top. Just like that. And I'm going to set that aside. And I'm going to grab a snowflake stamp. It's one of the ones that I've used on the front. And I'm just going to go ahead and stamp one in the bottom corner and one in the top corner. And I think it looks nice, and I like the way it finishes the inside. And I'm going to hit this with my heat gun quick, because that is pigment ink, and it takes a while to dry. Now, that being said, that little bit with the heat gun did not dry it. It just made it enough so that I can go ahead and put this in my card, and I don't have to worry about it smearing as long as I'm not rubbing across it. So I'm going to go ahead And for a list of supplies and measurements, click the information bar below for a link to my blog. And I will tell you the inks I use, the embossing folder, the embossing powders, everything is in there, including sizes. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on the inside of our card. I missed that top corner for some reason. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in. Just like that. And I'm going to set that aside for a second. And I'm going to grab the other part of my front cover. I'm going to quick plug my camera in so it doesn't die. There we go. Okay. So this is the front part of our card here. As you can see, I've already started it. What I did was I took a piece of white card and I did it on my silhouette. I just drew a rectangle, the size I wanted. And then I just picked a font I liked that was nice and chunky. And I cut piece out of the middle. Now I've got it held together with Post-it notes right now. And I'm going to go ahead and finish stamping the front of my card here so you can see what I did. And I'm going to use some Ranger holographic embossing powder. And I've already powdered my background here. And I'm just going to grab this little snowflake stamp. And I don't know who made this particular stamp because I bought it at one of the scrapbook garage sales. So I'm just going to pick a few places. The bigger snowflakes are from Stampabilities. It is, gotta grab my cheat sheet here. Stampabilities Jumbo Snowflake Trio is the stamp set for the big ones. And then I'm just gonna pull in my embossing powder here, and I'm using some pigment ink. I'm using a Versacolor ink. And I'm just covering it with this embossing powder. I could have swore there was another spot. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and close that up and move it out of the way along with my stamp guy. And I'm going to go ahead and melt the powder. Alright. And then I can set this piece aside. Oops. I covered everything in excess glitter off of that embossing powder. That's the one downside to that embossing powder, is the glitter element goes everywhere. Okay, so I'm going to take off my Post-it notes along with the letters. I went ahead and put the letters in for two reasons. One, I'm going to need them to fill in like the E and the A. And here we go. Okay, so this is what you're left with. Okay, and we're not done with this part yet, but I'm gonna work on this section first. And I'm gonna grab some sticker paper And this is from Sparkle and Sprinkle. Yeah. And this is just some sticker paper here. And I'm just gonna kind of eyeball how much of this paper I'm gonna need. And I'm just gonna cut a piece off. Just like that. I think that's, yeah, that's good. Okay, so the good thing about this is every like inch there are little slits, I guess you could call it, cuts on the paper. Okay, and I'm just going to adhere that down. Oops, I got dog hair in it. Ugh. That is the one part that's bad about having a pet, is you get dog hair everywhere. Okay, so now I'm going to take my letters and take the inside pieces and put them back in. I tried to put the letters in so that I could place the little pieces perfectly, but the letters just, I couldn't find a good way not to have to worry about the paper sticking too much, that the glitter won't stick around it. So I just decided that I would just kind of guess my way through. And it worked all right last time. Now, I went ahead and stamped it with the pieces in there for 2 reasons. One, I did this, the first time I did this card, I didn't have the little pieces inside it. And so I ended up with this card, and all the inside pieces are white, and they don't match. So I went ahead and did it this way for 2 reasons. One, I think it looks better if it matches, and 2, I can make 2 more cards using this, and they're already decorated, which I think is really cool. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab some light blue glitter, and I'm just going to cover the middle portion there. And I just come through and kind of push it down.
Your homework done?
And pat it down just like that, and then I'm gonna tap it off, and then I take a paintbrush and just kind of sweep off that excess glitter, and that is the front. One thing that is very important to remember when you're doing that front piece is make sure you use an anti-static tool. Whether it's the powder bag or whether it's the tool part, it will be invaluable to you, I promise. Between the excess glitter of the embossing powder and the glitter from the lettering, you need that anti-static. Because we used it, I don't have extra blue glitter everywhere. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab some foam tape. You could use any kind of dimensional adhesive if you wanted. You could just put fun foam behind this panel like Jennifer McGuire does. And I got this idea, I was watching a video by Christina Warner, and she did something kind of like this in her holiday season, except she made a shaker card. And I'm not real great at shaker cards. I struggle with it. I think it's because I'm just OCD enough that it bothers me when the little pieces of the shaker get stuck. And I've yet to find a way to make it without that happening. So, I thought, hey, I'll use some sticker paper and some glitter. And I'll stamp the snowflakes. And then I got to thinking, well, I found the blue I liked, but it takes forever to dry because it's a pigment ink. So I was like, well, maybe I can get that iridescent embossing powder to stick to it. And I did. So I was really happy the way it turned out. Okay, so that's our card for today. Thanks for stopping by. I'll see y'all next time.